Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I was thinking we could try creating this flower piece using alcohol inks. This is what we're going to replicate. If you're interested in making something like this, stick around and we'll see what we can do. So I'm going to be using Yupo paper today. This is the, I believe it's the medium. These are 9 by 12. I actually cut a couple sheets here. I'm just going to use half of a 9 by 12 for this flower. And if you want to get this paper, you can actually get this on Amazon. It's fairly pricey if you compare it to other papers like maybe the Nara paper or the craft plastic. Yupo also has a propensity for staining, which the other two don't, but I kind of actually want that at this point. I'm going to be working with pitch black, and I like how the colors sort of separate and stain. You know, the blue will separate, some of the reds will separate, and it gives you a really nice effect, especially when we're blowing out flowers. So what you will need, if you want to do it the same as me, you can use the same colors. There's lots of colors you can use, but I do recommend sticking with the pitch black. That's what we're going to put down as our center. And I'm going to use butterscotch. And then for the center of the flower, to give it that detail and depth, that 3D look, I'm going to use the Pinata White. And you'll see how that works as we move along in the video. Of course, you'll need alcohol. This is 99% isopropyl. Anything above 91 is usually good and will suffice for what we're doing here today. So I've just got that in a needle nose bottle. You can get this on Amazon as well. They come in a big bag. They're fairly cheap, easy to get. And the one tool that I'm going to need is, I'll show you here. It's these dental tools. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a little plastic stick, and it's got a little bit of a cotton bud on the end. I'm not sure what they use these for, but this is going to be our dotting tool to build up that center once we've blown out the petals of the flower. And the last thing that you'll need, well, you don't need, you can actually do this with your mouth, a straw, any type of item that you can force air through will work. This gives you a nice consistent flow of air though. So I prefer this. This is just a fairly inexpensive airbrush tool, a portable one that you can get off Amazon as well. This is not air on demand, so you will have to put up with the motor sounds running the entire time while you use it. So once I start doing the flower, I will actually get rid of the audio and I'll just do a voiceover for the rest. All right, so let's get to it. So now we're going to go ahead and start laying down our ink. So you can go ahead and put a drop or two of the pitch black into the middle of your page. We're trying to keep it in a circular pattern here, so you can tilt the the page around and move the ink to kind of get it as best you can in a round shape. And then while the ink is still wet, go ahead and add the butterscotch to the center. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and dry that ink up before we start blowing up the flowers. So what I like to do is just put like a small drop of alcohol right on the edge of the black and where the butterscotch meets. And I will start from fairly far away from that drop of ink and start blowing it out gently. I don't generally move in towards the ink too much when I'm blowing it out. It does tend to spread the ink in an uneven fashion when you do that. So what I do instead is actually tilt the tip of the airbrush sort of up as the ink's blowing out, and what that does is it'll start to blow the air out a little further and dry the ink as it's moving out towards the edge of the page. So you can probably see what I'm doing here. It's pointed down a little more, and then as the ink goes out further, I'll start to lift the nozzle of the airbrush upwards, and that's slowly going to dry out the edge, and that's what gives you that more even petal that you're looking for when you're creating these flowers. So when you actually lay down the ink, the whole reason of putting that butterscotch on top of the black while it's still wet is the butterscotch actually pushes the black out to the edges, and then you'll see the butterscotch sort of consolidating in the center there, so it makes it a lot lighter, and the dark is pushed out towards the edge. And later, after you've blown out your petals, that's what tends to give you that slightly dark shadow around the center that we're going to go ahead and use the pinata white and dotting to build up that flower center. It just helps you with creating depth to your image. So what I like to do also when I'm blowing these out is I'll start in one place and I kind of move around, I go across. I'm not going around in a circle, because what it does when you do that is it's creating overlapping petals that are unnaturally uniform. So I'll slowly turn the page and jump around from point to point. I'm not going in a perfect circle all the way around as I blow these out. And what I will do is I'll start with that outer edge, and then I will slowly add drops moving in towards the center once I've blown out most of the ink that you can see around that edge. So I'm still just going around, blowing out that outer edge. Some petals you'll find will be, a little bit longer. Others will be a little bit shorter. That's kind of what you're wanting. I mean, you don't want them to be extraordinarily different from each other, but, flowers are not perfect. Every petal is not the same in real life. So we're trying to replicate that here, and we do want lots of variation. Now you'll see here I just dropped a couple drops of alcohol on here in error. I prefer to stick with just a single drop so that I can have the same size petals generally. When you drop a little too much, you'll find that the petals will be a little wider, and you run the risk of having the petal not blow out properly and have that sort of widened tip that I don't really love. This was a mistake that I made. I overfilled my alcohol bottle, and so every time I went to tip it, it was trying to shoot out ink before I even got the tip to the paper. So I had to be really, really careful when tipping the bottle to the paper that I wasn't pouring, oodles of ink, or rather, oodles of alcohol all over my picture. As soon as you get, a little stray drop that goes off onto a petal that you've already finished, now you've got like a watermark, so to speak, a little circle that's now desaturated and made the petal look like something has dripped on it because it's dispersed the ink away from where the alcohol is dripped. It's a nice effect if you are going for that, some people will use like a spray bottle to get that speckled effect on their paintings, but that's not really what I'm going for here. And that's what I was having a little trouble with. I'm not sure if it was the bottle being overly full or maybe just having not used this particular paper before, it was blowing out a little differently. I don't think it was the paper. I think it was probably just an overfull bottle that was causing me problems, and too much alcohol was coming out onto the page. So I'm almost done the outer edge here, and once I finish that, I'll start moving in towards the center. I blew out a lot more petals than I would normally, and that's because I ended up putting 2 drops of the pitch black in the center on this, and normally I would only put 1, but it didn't spread out evenly as I had hoped it would to give me that perfect circle, so I added another maybe half drop onto the page to sort of fix that awkward circle shape that it had created. And so I'm blowing out a lot more to try and get rid of some of that black, which has sort of adjusted the look of what I was expecting. So it looks like I'm moving in towards the center now. And this is where you'll see a lot more slightly maybe greenish hints underneath, as the majority of the butterscotch is actually in the center, and it's mixing with that pitch black as it gets blown out. So that's kind of the fun beauty of and frustration of alcohol inks. You can't always predict what it's going to do, how it's going to behave. I have some wonky petals and some petals that are much wider than I would have hoped, and shooting off at strange angles. But it is what it is, you have to just take it and learn from each experience. I've learned not to overfill my bottle of alcohol, and you know, it's unpredictable, and that's kind of what makes it interesting too. Sometimes you get happy accidents, sometimes you get not so happy accidents, but as long as you're having fun while you're doing it, that's all that really matters. And yeah, I really enjoyed making this. We're just coming up on me finishing blowing out these petals here. Once that's done, we'll go ahead and move on to making that centerpiece of the flower, and we'll go back to real-time voice, and I will not have to struggle to find what to say to fill the time. Okay, so I'm just gonna put the pitch black on here in the center again and fill that. This isn't cute, obviously. And I'm just kind of trying to help it spread. And I just want to fill that space in the center here. And I'm just going to blow dry it, make sure that it's good and dry. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is actually take my piñata white, and I'm just going to pour a little bit on top of this container here, and we're going to start dotting the center with the white. So because it's alcohol ink, what you'll see is that it actually will interact with the pitch black that we put down here, so you're not going to get pure white dots. It's actually going to mix and create lots of different shades of grays, blues, sometimes even slightly pinkish colors because of the colors that make up the pitch black. And what I like to do also is keep in mind where I believe I want to have the sun direction coming from. So in this case, I'm going to focus creating a more lighter side as though the sun is coming from this direction. So when I put these dots on, I'll actually have them more densely packed on this side here and a little more spaced out on this side here, and that's what's going to give you that three-dimensional look. And you see how it's turning bluish gray here, not necessarily white, as it mixes with the pitch black underneath. What I did forget to mention at the beginning of the video was that I will use a little bit of this carbon black Liquitex acrylic ink down in the bottom here, just to help establish the shadow on the underside. Sometimes I'll just put like a little drop of alcohol in the white too. as it starts to dry up a touch. So as you can see, I'm really focusing the light and really overlapping this white towards the top side of the center of the flower. I'm still bringing it down underneath, but I do so when I've sort of used up a lot of the ink that's on this tool, so that it's depositing a lot less color and will help with that shadow. Oh, it's looking pretty good. Maybe just a couple more really light bits in the front here, and I'll add the black. So I'm literally just going to put, and you can see from yesterday when I did the other one, it's literally just a drip, not even a drip, of the black. But I don't want it to, the reason why I'm not using the black alcohol ink is because I don't want it to reactivate the ink underneath. I want to deposit this on top. So I'm going to dip it in here and kind of get rid of the excess so it's not too black. And just put a couple little dots here and there around this lower edge. I might go over this a tiny bit again, just with the white. Let's see. Alright, and there you have it. That's sort of the technique. This one didn't turn out as well as the one that I did the other day, but it is on Yupo, and I've never actually used Yupo paper, so getting it blown out was a little different. This is actually, this original one was done on Epson photo paper, just on the back side of a glossy sheet of photo paper. And it turned out really nice, actually. I'm not crazy about some of these edges, but not something that I can actually clean up necessarily with the Yupo paper because of its tendency to stain. But there you have it. So you follow the same steps. You know, you keep practicing, you keep trying, and you will probably be able to get something similar to that. Alright, thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this, and it maybe helps you get an idea of how to practice some of your own flowers. Maybe you can modify this method to suit yourself. I think in this case I just blew out way too many petals. But I mean, that's okay. Not everything turns out exactly as you plan it. But that is the technique, and I hope that helps. All right, thanks everybody, and I hope you join me again on my next one. Take care. Bye bye.